I'm gonna give you brief introduction to several activities in the frame of advancing assessment and diagnostic using 3D models and medical imaging. Well, medical imaging is a very robust methodology to evaluate the pathology and the human conditions using both computer tomography or magnetic resonance imaging. We are able to see inside the body, and depending from the region of interest and the type of tissue that we are analyzing, these modalities are the perfect match for the application. But if we look at an image in general, not necessarily MRI or CT, an image is a matrix, and each of the elements of the matrix is a pixel, and inside the pixel there are the value of gray that accounts to the physics of the transformation. So whatever source of image, this information is coded inside the pixel. So this is an important information to keep in mind while looking at a different type of transformation. The obvious transformation that is used by many for segmenting human parts is to code those information in the pixels to label different region of interest inside the body. So with MRI, with MRI, we will be more successful in looking at soft tissue, while with CT, then we have bones that are practically well defined by the gray values or by the Hounsfield value. Our activity has been very wide, both in research and development, but also in service. We have been for 2 decades working in the digital transformation of medical imaging to provide 3D printing models for surgical planning. And we are working also on the virtual reality and augmented reality platforms in order to create also educational tools for faculties of medicine and for anyone that wants to look into the body part in a novel way. Our experience has been recently published in a book that is available since 2023. But looking at the 3D printing, there is something very new going on. Today we can use 3D models, 3D printing models, to test the mechanical properties of body parts. I have 2 applications that I would like to show you. One is in collaboration with the University of Bologna, where we are looking at metastasis of vertebrae and normal vertebrae in order to understand if we can use 3D printed models to evaluate the differences in mechanical properties. And the results are very promising because the 3D printed models seem to be very fitting into distinguish metastatic vertebrae from healthy ones. So what is the advantage of having a 3D printed models that can represent mechanical properties is that then you can do tests that otherwise they will not be repeatable, first. And secondly, you can use those 3D printed models to simulate pathologies that otherwise you will not be able to do it. Similar approach we are employing in collaboration with the University of Padua to look at the femoral cartilage. So again, here we create 3D printed models using these techniques that is called digital anatomy printing that allows you to select and to create materials that are able to mimic the properties of real organs. But back to the image matrix. If you look at the image matrix, then you can, of course, visualize a body part, but you can also plot the distribution of gray into a scale and define a profile. These profiles for us has been very important in order to understand what is the transformation, the changes in between tissue. So here I have distributions from three representative groups. Healthy, this is the region of interest, is the tibialis anterioris, elderly subjects, and pathological subjects. What you see here is the muscle response. So it's the distribution associated to muscles. What you see here is what is associated to fat, and what is in between is connective tissue. So you can see that the distribution is completely reversed in between healthy individuals and aging population. And in case of pathology, in particular, this is the spinal cord injury, you have a distribution that is actually not comparable to none of the two. Based on these findings, we have created a profile that accounts all this property of this three-modal distribution, this distribution that is based on three types of Gaussian that are summarizing the content of muscles, connective, and fat. Now, next step was to validate this profile on large cohorts. So from this, for this application, we have been using a database that is called AGIS, and is an Icelandic database that has been supported by the NIH in the United States, and they have been collecting many thousands of parameters, mostly with the goal of finding metrics for cardiovascular risks. But among their acquisitions, they also had cross-sectional data from a mid-thigh femurs. So we have been able to look at over 5,000 cross-sectional slides and to test our profile. And we did find that our distribution, so the values that comes from this muscle profile, they can predict cardiovascular pathopathology, and particularly they have been very useful when looking at connective tissue. So the content of the connective tissue is very predictive of those diseases. But also, while looking at lifestyle, and particularly diabetes and hypertension, also the content inside this profile can be used, and it is very predictive. Recently, we also have been demonstrating that comparing left and right cross-sectional data, so the mid-thigh from the left and the right, the level of asymmetry, so the differences of this profile between left and right, they are also related to aging. So you can see that while the subjects are aging, the level of asymmetry increases. But the level of asymmetry increases also with the body mass index and increase with the worsening of the gait. Parameters of the gait, they are worsening while the asymmetry increases. So also the asymmetry between legs can be a very good metric to evaluate these pathologies. Another component that we have been using the digital transformation of imaging is to look at hypertrophy in the heart tissue. This work will be presented on Friday by Riccardo Forni, and it is the work, it's very promising and recently been nominated as a best novel application in the computational cardiology conference in Atlanta, United States last autumn. But I want to spend a few minutes to tell what we are doing with this methodology, with this transformation in the European Union. We have been beneficiaries of two EU projects, Restore and SynPain, where we have been developing a metric to evaluate cartilage degeneration. Degeneration in cartilage is a condition that we all undergo with age. So it's basically all of us has different level of degeneration of cartilage. However, today, the way that certain treatments are available, they mostly depend on self-reported condition. So even though it's possible to measure the thickness of the cartilage, what really counts in getting access to treatment is your pain. So more pain, more possibility to get a treatment. So the European Union has been very sensible to promote research projects, scientific projects that can improve evaluation of cartilage and improve the treatment. So we are participating in 2 of these projects. And our approach has been taking from over 100 subjects, MRI and CT, to combine the information that are available with these 2 medical modalities, to create a database of many hundred features that are coming from this image, and to classify the level of degeneration in a very novel way. These data have been available, and they're available into a European database, Restore. And today we are working into establishing metrics that can be used for a very specific, precise cartilage evaluation. On what they are, some of the features that I just extracted for you today are the cartilage thickness that normally is measured on a cross-sectional radiological image, but we do measure on the volume. And of course, I like to underline that the thickness is not different between controls and degenerate cartilage, not all the place, but only in very selected areas that with the 3D approach, we were able to target. In the same way, looking at the content of cartilage in terms of density, so the transformation of the cartilage into a computer tomography gives you the possibility to look at the density of the tissue. And here we also find some relevance in terms of density decrease in the degenerative cartilage. But very interesting that when you look at bone, the bone are very good predictor of cartilage degeneration, a very good predictor of cartilage classification, but not all the parameters. We have been measuring different parameters, and where you see, for example, the osteophytes, you can see that this condition, bone condition that you see here, it's a very, very precise condition to assess cartilage degeneration. So you have almost 100% of cartilage degeneration if you have these osteophytes. While other parameters, they distribute among also healthy individuals, and some of the parameters, for instance, they are not selective at all. So for example, subchondrial bone sclerosis, it's a condition that we have been measuring in everyone. Controls, aging population, and degenerated cartilage. So all this information that we have been collecting, we are still collecting, they are processed in order to create a multifaceted metric and to give to the next generation treatment a very sensitive and specific evaluation for the cartilage. My last slide. It's a little bit off topic compared to the image, but I like to tell you about our lab on postural control, because this is probably a unique lab in Europe, but probably in the world, where we use moving platform and virtual reality and measuring electroencephalography, heart rate variability, electromyography, and center of pressure while we give to the subject a simulation where he has to adapt to the postural control. So very challenging experiment. And here you see the brain connectivity during the experiment, over 150 individuals. This data, they are published in the journal Neural Engineering. And it's the first type of work that has such a big database of information. That's just to intrigue you a little bit about our activity in Iceland. And of course, all this activity are done thanks to a large team of individuals. We have collaboration with the University of Naples, with Padua, with Bologna, and many others that are working in Iceland with us on this subject. Thank you very much.